Hello, everyone. Good evening. Oh, we're all good. We had this issue the other day. I forgot to unmute people. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Paranormal Tuesday with me, your host, Jared Warren, and of course, joined by the one and only Mr. Carl Blissett and Mr. Robert Dyer. Good evening, guys.
Oh, yeah. How
Good evening, mate.
So, I hope we're all doing okay on this hot, sweaty Tuesday. It's one of these days where I did contemplate doing the podcast without a t-shirt. I'm not going to lie. But guys, I hope you're doing okay. So we have a very, very interesting episode for you today. It is, of course, all about Poltergeist. What is it? Or is it all negative? Obviously, we will get into a discussion about that very, very soon. But before we do, make sure you get your comments in. Can't see us. I hope that's not the case. Very soon. But before we do, make sure you get your comments in.
Oh, playthrough's coming through.
Can't see us.
No, it should be okay.
Can anyone see us? Let us know. We've had a comment saying they can't see us. But for those who possibly can, yeah, we have a very exciting episode here, of course, all about Poltergeist and a few other things. And we'll be sort of looking back at the investigation just gone last Friday at Colne Cemetery, where we went to the Wallace Hartley gravesite, where we did have very, very interesting experiences there and interesting investigation, to say the least. But before we do get into that, don't forget, guys. Oh, that's good. We are sponsored, of course, by Paranormal Technology, Paratech. You're not just buying equipment, you're buying the experience. So make sure you check them out on Facebook, guys. And like I say, you show Mark that you've liked our page, he will give you 10% off your first order. So, and as you've seen on many, many lives, all our equipment is from Mark, and he does look after us, and all the equipment is fantastic. So make sure you do check it out and have a look on his page, because he's got so much stuff, you know. He's sending us another piece of equipment this week, and I really can't wait. It's like Christmas when we get that that parcel from Paranormal Technology. It is like Christmas in the Paranormal Living household. So, guys, let me know who's watching this evening. Let us know that you're with us, and of course, get your comments in and join in with us on your thoughts, any opinions you might have of what we're going to talk about, and of course, your experiences, if you had any experiences, or whatever it may be. So, of course, as I mentioned, today we are going to talk about Poltergeist. What is it, and is it all negative? So, Poltergeist comes from the German word noisy ghost or noisy spirit. It's said to be a spirit that is responsible for physical disturbances, such as noises, things being thrown through the room, things levitating, doors slamming, doors opening by themselves, and of course, in some extreme circumstances, people have been physically attacked and physically hurt as well. So, Carl, we will start with you, my friend, because you're on my left. I'm not sure which way it looks on Facebook, but on my computer it looks that way. So, what do you first of all, before we do get into your experience and the overall in-depth talk, do you believe it is all negative with Poltergeist, or is the irrational explanation?
I think for me, it's a bit of both, really. I think with a poltergeist, you could presume it's like a ghost trying to get somebody's attention, and it's just making that type of noise. Other times, it might be something negative that's just trapped there, and the only way it can vent its anger is by shotting things around the room.
Yeah,
Oh,
that makes.
definitely.
What about you, Bob? What are your thoughts? Do you think it is all negative?
Oh,
or...
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's out there somewhere, you know what I mean? I think there's things out there that we don't understand, and obviously we're just trying to get communication to us in some way, in their manner, you know what I mean? And like Carl said, it could be the fact that there could be an aggressive spirit trying to take their anger out on whatever's around them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with it. I'd love to experience something like that, like something fly off a table or whatever, you know what I mean? But like I said, there's a means to everything. And if we find that means, then all well and good, I think. But yeah, I agree. They're absolutely fantastic. If anybody gets that, that's amazing footage. Honestly, seriously. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely.
I've seen some footage myself, some extreme, which was shared actually on a previous live. I think it was quite a while ago now, where there was a guy, I think he was Welsh, and he was in his kitchen, and everything started flying out of drawers, and it was sort of, I think it was on the real, or is it fake, or is it rational? And I think we all agreed that it was real, because it was physically impossible to sort of, do the stuff he was doing to make it fake, if that makes sense. Just do a few hellos. We've got Mark Smith, of course, from Paranormal Technology. Hello, buddy. Hope you're doing all right.
All right,
He's
mate.
joining us this
All right,
evening.
mate.
We have Craig on with us, as you mentioned. I saw him on Friday night on our live. We have Simon on with us. We've got a few other people on, so make sure you say hi, everybody. Let us know. And obviously, Kathy Murphy is on with us as well. Good evening, Kathy. Excuse me. So yeah, there's quite a lot of famous poltergeist activity stories out there. Of course, there is the movies Poltergeist, and of course, is it Paranormal Activity? Is that the film in it? Which is all sort of based on poltergeist activity as well. But one of the stories, what stood out to me, which I'm going to tell you about, is about Shirley Hitchens, and that was the Battersea Poltergeist. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name of the place. The Battersea Poltergeist. So January 1956, Shirley Hitchens was 15 years old. When she come home from school, this random key appeared on her bed. Come from nowhere. No one knew what this key was.
Wow.
It didn't fit any lock. Didn't fit any place in the house. Just randomly turned up. And in the course of that, obviously wondering what was happening, in that evening is when things started to get a bit intense. So when they all went to bed, all the knocking started, doors opening and slamming by themselves, and all this noise was starting to the point where the neighbours could hear it, and they end up ringing the police. So 3 o'clock in the morning, the police turned up. From outside, you could hear all this banging, all this noise coming from this terraced house, which obviously couldn't explain. And then the police went in, and obviously there's no one doing anything. They're all sat in the kitchen because they're absolutely frightened. And this happened. This went on, for 12 years. The family put up with this activity, and he ended up getting the name Donald because I know they obviously talking about poltergeist activity. There's things from writing on the walls, things have set fire, and they were starting to get these writings on the wall and these notes being left. Couldn't explain it, and this is why they got the name Donald. And as the weeks and months went on, is when things started to get intensified to the point where newspapers were turning up at the house. And, obviously they were hearing about this haunting and this Shirley Hitchens who was apparently possessed by this Donald and things going on to the point where, like you said, they had the writings on the wall. One of the stories, she said they were all sat in the front room and this clock was on the mantelpiece and all of a sudden lifted up by itself and moved into the kitchen, levitated in front of everybody.
Wow.
Can't explain it. To the point where even when she was at work, things were happening at work which she couldn't explain, as if this spirit of Donald was following her all around. And it, like you say, got to the point where they ended up going to the spiritualist church as well. And her dad was so worried about what was going on, he ended up having to leave his job because it was making him physically ill. And talking to a friend, they went to the spiritualist church where they said they do an exorcism on her. It got to that point where the family were like, what do we do? Because it's just getting worse and worse, and the writings on the wall, notes appearing, people being followed and everything, obviously, like I said, what was going on. And then they end up even getting invited to the BBC. And the programme, what they were doing, so they did a live TV thing where they asked him to come on and they tried to get Donald to do something. And apparently in the dressing room before she was brought onto the TV set, things were going off in the dressing room, things were flying around, knocks, bangs, again, everything you can possibly think of. But when they got on telly, nothing happened. So people then saying, oh, it's a fraud, it's fake, it doesn't exist, she's making this up just to get fame, as people do. Excuse me. And when it got to the point at the end of the 12 years after this, as you could say, 12 years of madness, the family got that used to Donald being around them. They were quite disappointed when the activity stopped. And apparently all what had happened was, at this point, Shirley had moved out and the parents had gone upstairs and there was just a note led on the floor saying goodbye. And that's as soon as the activity stopped. Just from that moment, which I thought was absolutely unbelievable. And one of unfortunately I can't remember his name, but he was a paranormal investigator. He ended up living with a family for like 2 years, writing all these notes down, which I think are due to be released in a book at some point. Because as I mentioned about the Battersea Poltergeist, there is a podcast all about it, so you can find it. And I think it's like 9 episodes. But they interview Shirley herself and some of the family who are still alive and the friends. which is awesome. It's really definitely worth a listen to find out what really happened in the real story. But I find it amazing how it just come to the point of she'd left, this note was found, and it said goodbye, and then the activity stopped.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely good. That's a good story, that. That's
Yeah,
what I said.
they went
It's a
through the
bit
good, the
like
bad.
the Enfield haunting. Exactly the same. Like you were saying, like the poltergeist just stopped. That's how it happened in the Enfield haunting. It just stopped. They put it down to the, I think it was Margaret or Janet, one of the two, was actually being possessed by, and I think the name was Bill Wilkins. He died in the property, I presume. Well, yeah, it states he did die there. Yeah, and he said to take over her, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Like I say, a lot of people was involved in that. The next door neighbour, he went in there. He was getting the activity, and then you had all the others going in there, like police. And when the police went in there, they was in there for 2 minutes, and then the chair just shot across the room. Now, to me, activity can happen anywhere at once, right? But I found with all that was going on, that poltergeist or whatever it was wasn't scared to show that it was actually there. But then after a while, I'm not sure what year it was, but it all just stopped. There was just nothing. And the actual somebody actually went there and done like an interview with these people who moved in there previous into this generation, and they've had never any activity like that at all in that house. So I don't know, but it's quite weird that everybody that went in there, believe it or not, into as an Enfield Hall in Green Street, you know, in like in 1979, that's when all the activity was kicking off. But after a while, it died off. And like I said, somebody's been there previous, and they've stated that there's no activity whatsoever going on. So, was that girl possessed or what? We wouldn't know. But they had all sorts going on. Cupboard doors, everything, cups flying off the side and everything. Cupboards being moved. The mother actually, believe it or not, didn't believe the daughters when they would turn around and say, "We've got something going on." What? And she kept saying, "Well, why are you upstairs moving stuff about? Why aren't you sleeping? Get to bed." And then it went on for 3 nights until she actually seen it move, and that's when she actually got somebody involved. But the girl did really get actually took over. So I don't know. I mean, there was activity going on there, obviously, but I still believe that there was more to it than meets the eye there. Like I say, I think the girl might have been possessed as well. So maybe the poltergeist can actually take over you in that situation. I don't know. But it was it's a very good story. Very good and interesting story, I think. Something worth actually looking at history on. Actually fantastic.
Yeah, the
Really
thing
good.
about what's interesting me about that one was the fact that the police turned up and then
Hmm?
the chair and the cabinet started moving by themselves. And obviously, these big, heavy, old-fashioned cabinets and stuff. And obviously, the experience quite a few people had there. Which of course, Conjuring 2, I think, is based sort of
Exactly, yes.
loosely
Yeah,
based
it's
on the Enfield, because I know Ed and Lorraine Warren did go there for a short while. I think they went twice to see the house, but they didn't. Nothing much happened. I don't think when they were there at that point. But yeah, there's so many famous stories. Obviously, we could spend hours doing this. Another one I remember is the Bell Witch, which is a thing that's always interested me. I remember reading this at school in one of my paranormal books. The
yeah.
quick version of this story was it was back in the early 1800s in America, and this family lived in a farmhouse. There was things started knocking on the wall as usual. The sort of the things what start with poltergeist activity, to
No,
the
yeah,
point where
definitely.
things were dropping from the ceiling like fruits, oranges, apples, pears, just random stuff, literally dropping from the roof from nowhere. And this went on, but then they ended up finding out it was a witch, and they called it the Bell Witch. I think there is a
Wow.
film about it as well called The American Haunting, I think it is. And this activity went on for quite a while, but she ended up attacking the dad. So the dad was getting the brunt of this activity to the point where he was poisoned, if I remember. He was given this fruit, which was, if it had been poisoned, and to try to kill him. And then it ended up leading, when they started when the activity got worse, they ended up searching the grounds, and they ended up finding this cave, which is where the Bell Witch was buried.
Oh my
So
God.
again, that's
Really?
obviously the mini story. What about you, Carl? You had personal experience with poltergeist activity?
I have, yeah. My partner's daughter, when we lived in a house in the northeast, she used to have some like figurines that she used to keep in a bedroom, and she'd put them on like the windowsill. And next morning she'd come downstairs for a breakfast. She said the figurines had moved, they went across the room. So she thought child's imagination, at the time. So one day we just happened, when she went to school, we just happened to go up there.
Hmm.
Thought I'll have a look. So I put the figurines. They were laid on the bed. I put them on the windowsill. I went downstairs. There's just me and my partner in the property at the time. And I thought, right, we'll go back up. Heard the noise upstairs. We went upstairs to have a look. The figurines had moved from the windowsill right the way across to the other side to a sideboard, like chest of drawers, and they were all stacked up on top of each other. And it
Wow.
was physically impossible for them to stand up on top of each other because they would have fell. And after that, there was like footsteps coming down the stairs. I had my mum over one time, and she said she seen a shadow under the door, and then she heard someone running up and down the stairs that we had.
Wow.
And then the back door used to open and close on its own. And then one time it got so bad we had to phone a priest just to see what he would suggest. And he brought somebody round, another clergyman with him, and he said, "Yeah, there's definitely something up there, but you need to come around with me while I bless the house." So while we were in the room, we had the door closed, some furniture moved towards the door, and then the figurines started flying past our heads while the priest was doing his like prayer, what they do out of the Bible. And he said, "Oh, it's very dangerous. You need to get rid of it, and we'll do it right now. But you have to be strong and physically strong to be prepared for it." And so he's doing all the scriptures. Everything started moving. The bed started moving. The drawers started moving. There
Wow.
was things on the floor started moving. Balls were rolling across the floor. And when he finished his prayer, it was like something had just lifted. It was like there was nothing there. And then there was like a really strong smell of roses. And he said he always gets that in that case where there's been any poltergeist activity. Once he's done all this prayer and everything, there's always a smell of roses, and it's supposed to be a divine thing where the angels are supposed to have blessed the house as well.
Wow.
So that was my
Yeah.
experience, my partner's experience, and we stayed there for a year and nothing else happened, and we moved from there to somewhere else.
So how does that make you feel actually seeing that? You know what I mean? I wouldn't know what to
Yeah,
do if I did something like that. It
Mhm.
must be an experience, or it must be brilliant
yeah.
to see it. Does it feel like it's not real? You're not really seeing that, or is it really
Uh,
like?
Yeah, I found it really interesting because the partner's daughter, I sat her down, I was talking to her, she said, "Well, I used to talk to this person. I used to talk to him, and because all I heard was voices in the room, that was it." She kept saying, "I used to talk to this person, and he just was messing about with the toys and stuff." So we got her out the room, and she stayed in with her mum, and I ended up staying downstairs,
Oh, tell you,
I thought
sleeping
you
on the
were
love
sofa.
gonna,
that.
I thought you were going to say you got put in that room. Then I'm going to say,
I would love to
No,
experience that. Absolutely. If I ever caught something like that, I'd be well happy. Honestly,
yeah,
seriously,
exactly.
absolutely mental.
wow, I
Yeah, it was
can't.
amazing.
Get viewers
Yeah.
if you need, or you got any ideas or whatever, just chuck them on and we can have a look at them. Look at it in the
Yeah,
bottom corner there, and be nice to hear what you think about it and what if you've had experiences yourself. Really, that'd be absolutely
yeah,
fantastic.
I'll make sure you get the comments in. I do have another thing to touch upon. This is not obviously my personal experience, but as many of you know, I mentioned this a lot, that my granddad was a medium, and obviously brought up around that. He'd had a lot of experience over the years and stuff. And this was, I'm not sure what year it was, but this is in his own writings, what he did. And I do remember him telling me this. So he'd done quite a few rescues and, going to haunted houses and things like that. And one of the houses he got called up to, water kept coming through the ceiling. I can't explain it. This water, it was the same time every day, or it might have been twice a day, the water would come through the ceiling. So if someone turned the taps on, and just left the water to go. So this kept going on for a while, and someone had rang the church. Church won't come out. They'd rang, obviously, like British Gas and, things like that. Plumbers, they can't explain it. There's no explanation to why this keeps happening. It shouldn't physically happen by itself. So they end up getting hold of my granddad. So he's like, "Yeah, I'll come round." So walking around the house, it was Spirit. And as he walked in, this gentleman, um, literally come up to him like this, face to face with him, you know, trying to sort of intimidate him. He said he looked like a pig. Like, he did look disfigured. It looked nasty.
Ooh.
He was like, right, okay. So as he carried on walking around the house, he went up to, excuse me, he went upstairs and into the bathroom. And then exactly at the point and time it always happens, the water starts running by itself. And there is
Really?
there is a guy sat on the edge of the bath, turning the taps on. He was obviously in spirit. Basically, what happened was, he didn't realise he died. He didn't like children, and obviously this was a family house. And he kept turning the taps on to flood the house so the family would leave the house and they wouldn't go. So it took my granddad to have to come in and basically, as he would say, shift him. and obviously ask Spirit to come and collect him and take
Did
him.
he actually shift him then?
He did, yeah.
Oh, my God.
He'd had a few issues like that, obviously, over his time working as a medium. But yeah, that's one of the ones I always remember in telling me
So
about.
do you think that the spirit was doing that just to obviously get them noticed that he didn't want them in the house? In a way.
I think that comes a lot with poltergeist activity, and it's
It is, isn't
sometimes
it?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's they might not realise they've passed on, or even if they have passed, they like the house, they don't want anyone else coming. And especially when you start knocking walls down, and even if you just, you know, you're doing the house up and spirit, and if they don't like it because it's always been their house, you know, they're going to start doing things. I think sometimes let's just obviously come to the conclusion tonight about what is it? Is it all negative? Carl, like, what are your thoughts about it? Do you think sometimes it does come to that, or do you think it is all bad in that sense?
I don't think it's all bad in a sense, but if you look at quite a few poltergeist cases, some of it starts with water coming from the ceiling as well. See, sometimes it's like coins, water, or something. It'll just come from the ceiling at random. You might live in a place that's had no activity you might be there for 2-3 years, and then something just will happen at the click of a finger. And it's strange how it can just happen.
Yeah, Mark's
That's mad,
just
isn't it?
put a comment in there saying totally agree with that. Sometimes they think it's their home still. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I guess for them, it's especially if they don't realise they've passed and someone's coming in. It's like, who are these? What are these doing here? And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, like you say, things
No,
get
definitely.
altered. Obviously, that's what they're not that keen on. So, guys, remember, get your comments in. Any thoughts you may have, any experiences you'd like to share with us, or any stories, please do let us know. Just before we do go back on to, of course, talking about poltergeist activity, I did mention, was it on the last podcast? I think it was. Last podcast, rather. Oh, what's happened there? Here it is. Come on. We mentioned, obviously, about Thursday Night Live, made that announcement, a night of experimental communication. So you are lucky we have ready for the date. It is Thursday, the 12th of August at 8 p.m. We will be live, on our Facebook page for the first Thursday Night Live. And of course, as it says in the title, a night of experimental communication. So this could be anything from obviously table tipping. You know, we have the spirit boxes, and we have a lot of obviously different equipment from Mark at Paranormal Technology. So as I say, make sure you check them out, guys. And we do have quite a few experiments planned up, even to the point where we're not in the same room, and we've got a few different plans going forward. So if there's anything you'd like to see us do, of course, we're not doing Ouija boards. As you listen to the last week's or the
Definitely.
other week's episode, you won't see anything like that. It's all done safely and properly, and not playing with toys we shouldn't be playing with. But guys, so make sure you do check in on Thursday, the 12th of August, 8 p.m. Again, we will be live for our first Thursday Night Live experimental communication. It's going to be good. I'm really excited for that one.
Cool.
Excuse me. Yeah. So, Bob, do you have any more stories you'd like to share with us,
Well,
or any more experiences?
I've never had experience with, like I said, I've never had things moving and stuff, but it's always been my wish that one day I'd actually see something actually move off a table or whatever, But no, I'm not myself. No, I haven't. The only story I got which touches my heart is the Enfield hauntings. I think that story's just crazy. But that's for myself. No, I mean, I think poltergeists are just trying to get attention, or they're trying to get to be noticed, or they don't even know they're dead, or whatever. I don't know, or they're demonic. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I would love to experience something like that and catch that on camera. And that would make my day if I ever see something like that. I've never seen it. A lot of them do it on YouTube, so I'm just wondering now how they do it or how they capture these things. But yeah, I'd love to do it. I'd love to just catch anything moving off a table, a lamp moving, or whatever. Be well cool. Yeah, apart from
Yeah,
that, no, not really. No,
of
never
course,
experienced it before.
one of the another famous story, which is a venue we will be going to very soon, which is called 30 East Drive. Everybody knows 30 East Drive. It's probably one of the most famous paranormal hotspots in, especially in the country, if not the
Oh,
world.
definitely.
Everyone knows. And obviously they have investigations there quite regular, which is, like you said, we are planning to go there in the near future where we'll be able to do a full lockdown live, which should be very interesting. But of course, their poltergeist is called Fred, I think it is.
Yeah.
And what
He's meant to
interests
be a
me
monk,
about
isn't
no, that's another part of the haunting.
he?
Is the
Oh,
Black Monk. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things. Obviously, they did a film about that again, which was, I think it was when the lights went out on the girl. Obviously, the reports from the haunting are obviously Fred the poltergeist, and they have obviously the girl got pulled up the stairs, didn't she, by her hair, and they had a
yeah.
lot of terrible things happen. Um, and obviously, from reports to this day, is that Fred still is around 30 East Drive, and on certain occasions, some groups have had some pretty horrific investigations there, even though some people have had nothing. There was one the other day actually, because obviously I'm on the 30 East Drive group. Obviously, I'm having a look when people go live on there for investigations, and there was one. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were doing a séance around the table, and the woman jumped up off the table and she had scratches all down her arm. Obviously, watching it live, I'm like, that you can't explain that because the way she jumped up, she's blatantly shocked, and it's just such a like, yeah, she'd had these bloody marks down her arm. So obviously, there's still activity there to this day,
Oh, yeah,
which
definitely.
is which is going to be interesting when we get to go.
I mean, they get
Certainly.
doors moving and stuff like that. And what do you think about it, Cole? Do you think we're going to get some lovely evidence, eh? What do you reckon?
Oh,
It'd be
definitely.
well
I think
cool.
we will because we, like you say, we keep it all real. We're 100% legit.
Exactly.
We keep everything in order. We try to debunk stuff. Can't debunk it. We know what's happening. But if
Yeah.
I get pulled up
Exactly,
the
yeah.
stairs by my head, I know it's not my hair.
It's right, though, isn't it? We're looking out there, and if we get doors moving and stuff like that, and they're genuine, we won't sort of like, say, oh, yeah, that's that activity. We will see if there's a way of debunking it if there's a problem. But if it's genuine, it's genuine. And
you
that's what
just
we look for.
Exactly.
you just give me that thought, Carl. If you did get dragged up the stairs just by your head,
Exactly.
got no. Oh, that's brilliant. But yeah, again, even like where me and Jay went to the ancient realm in, again, reports of poltergeist activity. Obviously there's other things what happened there. But there is so many locations where this kind of thing happens. And again, I think the issue is with poltergeist activity, it always comes down to it is negative. It's always terrible. It's something demonic or it's something doesn't want us here. But when
Mm.
it could sometimes be, again, there's that other side of it where people have had children haunt the house and keys go missing. Things move by themselves, but it's not a negative energy. But I think sometimes, especially, I think we mentioned this on, there was a previous podcast we'd done, I can't remember which one it was about now. But like Hollywood sometimes like to make things out worse than what they are. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
poltergeist or paranormal activity, it's seen as this awful haunting, things like that. It's always put a negative spin on it rather than actually probably some positive sides to it, which aren't, it could be sometimes a loved one coming into your house and they're just opening and closing doors or they're moving things or just to let you know that they're there. It doesn't mean it again. It's not always a negative part. Craig, which one are you on about, pal? And about Colne. Of course, we're going to talk about our little investigation last weekend in a couple of minutes for you, which was definitely a really, really cool place. Regarding activity, sorry. Yeah, I need to share a picture as well. Yeah, again, even like you say, you could say activity from the spirit box, things coming through there or things moving by themselves on investing. Even if was it Ridgely, for example, when we went there and I was physically touched. Again, it is a
Oh,
form of
yeah.
poltergeist activity. You're physically being something's happening.
That was time to leave.
Definitely. And we're going to end up going back there at some point, so it should be interesting.
Oh, we will do, yeah.
Excuse me. So we are going to sort of touch upon just before that. So I think we're all sort of agreed together that it isn't always negative. It's not always a bad thing, poltergeist activity.
You know, I always say, never call a spirit out. That's the worst thing you can ever do. I do believe that. How do you feel about that, Cole? It's right, isn't it? You don't call spirits out.
It depends which
No.
way you're doing it, doesn't it? It depends what you're. I would just read Mark's comment out quickly. Yeah, I think movies have made all poltergeist activity into all demonic, and I don't think that's the case. Carrie obviously agrees the same. I totally agree there. I think when you're calling out spirit, it depends which way you're doing it. You know, because I think sometimes if you're going in an aggressive manner and you're going, "Come on, show yourselves, get me out," if you don't want me here, which obviously I've never done that and don't plan to. You know, you're going to drum up negativity. If you're going in there negative, and then you're going to drum up negativity. If you go in there sensible, like you know we do, we're pretty well behaved, and you know what I mean. We do everything honestly, and
We got
you know
respect.
even when we call out, exactly everything's done respectfully. That's the difference, and I think sometimes that's why we do get quite a lot of activity on our investigations, is because we are respectful. You know, if something happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know what I mean? We're open to that. You know, we don't promise anything. But like you say, the fact that we are lucky enough and the fact that we are respectful of spirit and the afterlife, you know, end of the day, excuse me, end of the day, we're just there to get, as we always said, to get this evidence for people, to prove to people that there is life after death. You know, if you take our evidence as you want it, you know, you can agree with it, you know, as you always get, you get skeptics who are like, oh, it's something nothing. But we have had a lot of things, which I even thought were funny on Friday, because when the spirit box were going off and we were getting names through. And obviously, I know you guys were separate to me at one point. You, Carl, and Craig, when I was with Denise and Zoe. And that you obviously getting quite a lot of things through there as we were getting the cat ball splashing and the music box going off. You know what I mean? There was so much going on in that cemetery, which was quite amazing, really, to see how quiet it was to start. Which obviously leads us on to Friday night, of course, at Colne Cemetery when we went to Wallace Hartley's grave. Obviously, who was a member of the Titanic band. He was a band leader and unfortunately went down with the ship. But 2 weeks after he'd passed, he managed to find his body and bring him back to Colne. And over 40,000 people turned up for that funeral, which is like unbelievable. And what an investigation it was. I'm just going to read that comment out and then we will get into talking about our investigation. Carrie's just put, just go in, be yourself and be respectful. We always get great evidence, and I think that's why, because we are so respectful. Exactly, totally agree.
It's true.
You wouldn't go into a stranger's house and start shouting the odds, would you? Kick the door down like, come on, make me a cup of tea. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't want me in here, kick me out. The approach, I do believe, is all important. Being respectful to spirit is so, so important. Well, this is it. And I watched a podcast the other day, and obviously many have watched that Help My House is Haunted, and the guy who does all the EVPs, like we were talking about this the other day, and he was saying that is it. That is his approach. It's about going in there and, you know, my name is blah, blah, blah. You know, I'd like to communicate you know, being exactly, just being respectful and using that approach. So, Carl, we will start with you, my friend. Friday, obviously, there was a lot happened. We were live for over 2 hours. It's very, very interesting now. I'll let you sort of do a little summary and your thoughts, pal.
Yep, it was a great evening, full of voices coming through on the spirit box. We had the Titanic's name actually come through. We've had the name of the band leader came through. We've had other names. We had Elizabeth coming through. We had quite a lot of activity when we were around there. Quite a lot of activity.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think anticipate how much activity we get, not just from obviously Wallace Hartley, from the rest of the cemetery as well. You know, to say, because it was quite quiet, obviously, to start with, the energies of building, and obviously we didn't really call out, we were just taking a walk around and getting the feeling of the place. But I will say that Wallace Hartley's grave, that was emotional. It was very, I think we all felt the same. You just got the feeling from that night that it was going to be quite intense and a bit, what a feeling. And I think maybe, again, we went in there respectfully, you know, we have empathy, we have respect for him. And I think that's what he appreciated, to the point where we got the music box going off, the cat balls were going off. We obviously had quite a lot of activity happening around his grave, to the point where I said I wish we should have brought some flowers with us, to obviously put down on his grave, which
Oh,
obviously
that
we
would have been
didn't.
nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I thought about it
Yeah.
after obviously that point it was too late, and then obviously went to see the memorial in Colne Centre. Again, lovely, memorial they did for him. But Bob, what about your thoughts?
Oh, I think it was, like I said, it was good. You know, what got me is when me and Carl was just like walking away and the spirit box was calling us back, wasn't it, Carl? So I say, I'm here,
Yeah.
or something like that, wasn't it? And then we eventually, it was like, they were communicating with us at that point. When we left the actual stone and moved off, they wanted us back. And we went back and we was getting all sorts of voices. We was getting like silent murmurs and stuff like that. We was getting distant from the grave and stuff like that, voices. It was absolutely crazy. We got so much. We got, it was absolutely amazing. I think that was absolutely brilliant, though. Really good, yeah, because it was like, you didn't expect, we expected to just walk away and that was it. But no, it was like he was calling us back, saying, "Come back." We got the name of the ship. We got everything. We got Elizabeth. Didn't we? We got everything. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was crazy,
Yeah,
crazy,
Craig
crazy.
just put a comment, saying it. One of the comments out of the spirit box was, "You've gone past."
Yeah. Yeah. That was when we had the spirit box, and we had the spirit
And we
box
went
on, and
back.
we just walking past a gravestone, and it just
We
came
called
through on the spirit box. You've just gone past. So we stopped,
Yeah.
turned around and walked back, and then it said this way. So we went around. So obviously we went to the Hartley gravesite again. That's
Mhm.
when we were getting everything coming through as well. The voices, like Bob said, we got everything coming through on it.
Oh, it's
Wow.
amazing. It got stronger and stronger as we got up that hill, wasn't it? And then
Yeah,
then the voices was really coming out really loud, and it was coming. Oh, it's crazy. Absolutely beautiful. Really
Yeah, it
good.
was.
So he was listening, and didn't want us to leave. Obviously, called us back. We got the name of the ship and everything. It was a crazy Elizabeth and whatever. You know, it was amazing. We
It
really
was.
enjoyed that.
It was interesting because I think there was so much that cemetery. Because even though you lot were together, you, Craig, and Carl were in one side, and obviously I was with then Denise and Zoe. While we had, I think it was a little boy. You know what I mean? There was so much dynamics to the investigation, and the contrast and differences was pretty unbelievable.
I
It
think
was
Craig
definitely.
got the audio on that anyway. I think he's got some because I think he was recording it at that time. You need to speak to him about
Yeah, well,
that.
I'll send him a message. But before we do sort of wrap up about this
He
investigation,
did. He was.
obviously,
He was recording, wasn't he? Carl. He had it.
yeah, I
Had the
think he was.
yeah.
I
Because we didn't
will.
have a camera because mine packed up, didn't it?
Yeah,
Well, I think it drained. Seriously, it was well charged, and then it went.
Gone. Yeah, I. It was definitely an amazing night, and obviously that's the first one
Mm.
we've done for a few weeks as well. Definitely a place to go back again.
Oh,
almost
definitely,
definitely.
Definitely,
definitely.
because
I think.
I'm still at that. I will admit, I'm still at that new point about graveyards because obviously with investigations, it's I've always perceived it as, even on some of the places we've been, as being haunted buildings or land. But I'm still getting used to this graveyard. Not that I'm afraid of graveyards or anything, but I've always just found it a bit different. Going
Yeah, but
to
you
a
know what
graveyard.
it is? It comes down to the energy at night. The energy comes around you. Seriously,
Mm.
like we did when we was at New Church. It was exactly the same as that. I felt it coming around there, and I felt like we were going to get something. Then I said, Titanic, we'll get back there to the guy. Obviously, he's sort of been buried. Like,
Yeah,
we will get some, and we did. We got some real good answers. Absolutely crazy. Good bit of footage as well. I mean, I've got the couples going on my camera, so I've got a bit on there, so that's worth looking at. But seriously, yeah, absolutely. That was a very good night. That I enjoyed that
yeah,
totally.
definitely. Yeah, Craig, I've got your photos. I've got everyone's photos. Obviously, I just need Bob's stuff, and then I can get it all uploaded on Facebook as well. And of course, I'm going to upload a sort of mini version of the investigation as well, sort of best bits, because obviously it did go on for about 2 hours.
It was
But
amazing.
even, excuse me, even at the end of the investigation, that last 20 minutes when obviously we said we'll finish back at the grave, and the stuff coming through was absolutely unbelievable. Craig, yeah, I've got your. I just answered that, didn't I? I couldn't remember if I'd answered. And obviously the music box were going off for fun, and then obviously we had a lot of stuff coming through that spirit box. So absolutely amazing. So guys, if you want some of that equipment, make sure you go check them out. Paranormal
Oh,
Technology,
definitely.
Paratech. This is where all our equipment is from. It's absolutely fantastic. So make sure you
You
check them
can't
out
go
on
wrong with
Facebook.
that.
Make sure you go
Definitely.
check them out on Facebook. We do have another comment here before we do come to the end of this week's show. Carrie Spot, I have a bit of a fear with a certain graveyard as well, but I believe a bit of the fear is also shows respect for the paranormal. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree there. Absolutely, totally agree.
You know, definitely. If you had skeptics there, I think they'd change their mind. You know what I mean? Because that's just it just comes around you, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It's like, how can I say? You can feel it. I felt cold. I felt shivers. I felt like some cold breeze coming past me. I think, Carl, you felt something going on, didn't you, as well? That was
Yeah,
quite.
yeah,
It was like
definitely.
energy seeping around you. Mental.
I think we
Absolutely.
I
all
mean,
had.
like
Sorry, go on,
like you
Bob.
say, it was quite warm. Like in that, it was
Yeah.
a warm night, and it's when you stood near Wallace Hartley's grave, and you feel that cold breeze just circling you.
Oh, it
It
does,
was
yeah.
really strange.
Mm,
And you remember I said about the mist as well when it was going past.
Mm.
Nobody could see it, could they? But when Denise took that photo, you had a look. You could see mist on one of them pictures. Absolutely crazy.
yeah,
It was mental. Well,
it
worth
was.
doing it. I enjoyed it. I would go back there again, no problem.
But speaking to
I'll
everyone
put.
since the investigation, or Craig and Zoe, that was their first investigation, and obviously they both enjoyed it. And excuse me, that's what I like about this is when you have new people on and different people who may have never experienced an investigation before, and everyone has different experiences, and we all have the same experience as well. You know, like you said about the mist and the cold air and hearing voices, and there's no one around because I had that, and me being
Yeah,
physically
definitely.
pushed was quite an interesting one as well. So a big obviously thank you to Carl, Bob, Denise, Zoe, and Craig for being a part of our Paranormal Living Live because it was definitely an amazing night.
Always, mate.
Carrie's just put that. It's
Definitely.
like, see, it scares the crap out of me, but I love it so much at the same time. Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's always that unknown. I think it's the fear of the unknown. Um, there we go. I was trying to. This was it. No, we've done that one. So our next Paranormal Living live investigation is Friday the 30th of August. This is the next one we could fit in. Because like I said, the Thursday before, we will be live for our first Paranormal on Thursday. Thursday live, which obviously our night of experimental communication. But our next live will be Friday the 30th of August from 9 p.m. on Facebook, of course. And you will see us from a location we do have planned, which we've been planning this one for quite a while, about 2 months now. And every time we try to go, it's been postponed. So we will be live on the 30th of August. So make sure you tune in, guys, and be a part of that because it's going to be absolutely amazing. Really cool place,
don't miss
Scotland.
it.
And of
Worth
course,
watching.
the Thursday before, we will be live for our experimental evening. And finally, guys, I just want to say again, thank you very much for tuning in tonight and for all your love arts and comments and everything. I really, really do appreciate it. Make sure
Thanks
you
for coming
do
on.
subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's doing really well now. We've hit over the 100 subscribers, but I think we're 110. So within a week, we've done all right. And of course, we are not far off now, 600 followers on Facebook, which is absolutely amazing. So, of course, thank you to everybody for all your likes and follows on Facebook, of course. And this Thursday, we will have the podcast out, so you can get it, of course, on Apple Podcast and Podbean this Thursday. And like you said, podcast is every 2 weeks. And Google Podcast as well. So Paranormal Living Podcast, straightforward to find. Every single episode I've ever done, right from the start up to now, covering everything, of course, from Richard Felix to The Conjuring, obviously Ouija boards, Poltergeist. It's literally quite a lot of things we've gone over the past 12 months of doing it, which is officially 12 months this week. Is the podcast has been going, so that's pretty awesome, and listeners from around the world. So thank you very much, everyone. So, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. Obviously, Carl and Bob,
Be
thank you very
safe.
much, guys. Look after yourselves.
Cheers.
We will see you next Tuesday for Paranormal Tuesday. Of course, it won't be live. It will be shown as if it is live, but it won't be live. I'm away. So We are pre-recording next week's Paranormal Tuesday, but you can still see it, which is going to be all about, because I've got it here wrote down, the Shadow People, I think it was.
That should be a good one.
I'm sure it was. I've got it wrote down. Yep. Shadow People. So make sure you tune in next Tuesday at 7:30. Like I say, it will be a pre-recorded episode, but make sure you tune in because it'll still be interesting. So that will be Shadow People. So make sure you tune in, guys. Look after yourself. Stay safe. Thank you very much for tuning in. All the
Be
best.
safe.
Good night. God bless. Love and
Don't
light.
miss it.
Take care,
Adios,
everybody.
everybody.